Brand new from Tim Holtz and Ranger are Distress Oxide ink pads, and I'm sure you've heard about them, but we're here to show you how to use them.
This is like no other ink you've ever seen before, and you're really going to get some spectacular results.
Aha! Come play with us. Ranger has introduced these 12 ink pads, and you can see all the colors there, a nice variety of them.
Right, and these are beautiful inks. It's a fusion of water-reactive dye and pigment ink. It creates kind of an oxidized chalk-like finish when you spritz it with water. It's just really beautiful.
Actually, let me show you an example. And many things are going on in this card, and Gail is going to show us exactly, but we're going to see, there's the variety of colors
stamping
together
on a kraft cardstock and getting a beautiful chalk-like finish. That's one thing. The brown that you're seeing here is actually brown StazOn, but look, you can stamp on top of it and layer it. That's a beautiful look.
So the opacity of the inks.
So right here you're seeing this beautiful effect that you'll see a lot of this on YouTube with layering them, and I'm going to show you that. And then in the background, stamping on black cardstock, and this is done with the pink, and it's just gorgeous. Plus that blending of the edges, you get that halo. There are so many different things.
Okay, let's get into it.
These inks. So here's that background. So just go ahead and stamping on there, and then you can use the inks to blend in the edge. That's one of the things you're seeing. Another one is stamping on kraft cardstock. So I went ahead and did that with the StazOn, and now I've got this beautiful butterfly here, and I think I did that with a combination of the colors. And you can ink this up with a cosmetic wedge and do this, or I'm just really quickly, I'm going to go over it like so, and then I'm going to hit the edges with a little bit of a different color. Now, like I said, go ahead and use maybe a cosmetic wedge. You won't get a little purple on here, but I'm not going to worry about it for the moment. But go ahead and use several different colors and then stamp and get just a beautiful result. Also, when it dries, it's a little bit different than when it's first sitting on there. So one thing you can do is let this dry just for a second, and then just give it a little spritz of water, and you should be able to see it if we stay close. Just a little bit of an extra, let me get that little, see how it goes just a little bit brighter when you do it. And plus underneath, after it's completely dry, underneath the ink will sort of bleed out, and the top just stays sort of pristine. But
so the water based ink is going to do the bleeding, but the pigment's going to stay on the paper. It's going to sit on top.
Now, I didn't let that dry completely before I did that, but that's one of the looks you can get. Here we're going to back out and show you one more thing. Now I'm going to take several of these colors. So let's take that beautiful cracked pistachio, and we'll take some of the wilted violet. Do that here. So this is the one that you're seeing a lot of people do this, but it's just a really easy technique for getting a gorgeous background pretty quickly. And you can even add the blue. But the nice thing about this is after you do one of these layers, you can add more layers later after it dries. So let's go ahead and add quite a bit of water on there. I want it kind of nice and juicy. And then you're going to start putting your cardstock in. And something that I found, and right away you'll see a little bit of this, I'm going to add a little bit more water, is that it's different if you use, say, white cardstock versus like a silky cardstock. Silky sort of, or a matte, or a glossy even, it'll sit on top of it more. Now, what you want to do is you want to let that dry, or go ahead and dry it with a heat gun before you put on the next layer, because that's one of the beauties of this ink, is that you can layer on top of it, and the colors are not going to really get muddy like they would with their companion distress inks. So that's one thing that's different about this. And also, if you sort of spritz it as it goes along, let's get in a little closer to that. As I spritz it, you can see those little drops. and they dry in place too, so you get a little bit extra effect. And then if I wanted to, I can go ahead and swipe it again, add more ink, but that's the technique for getting those beautiful backgrounds.
So in this card, you did it on kraft cardstock?
No, I didn't.
You did that on white?
I did that on white.
You just had some yellow coming into it.
I added some of the amber, there's a kind of a yellow, lots of different things. And also then I inked the edge with the walnut stain or antique, I can't remember which one. We have all 12 and they're just super fun to play with, all those different colors. I love these inks.
Are you getting the feeling of that? Okay. Now you were using the botanical butterfly, so that gave you the butterfly and the stem, so that's nice.
Plus the little Make-A-Wish down here, which is just, it sort of highlights, it's almost a little neon look.
Oh, I see that. Okay, and again, very much the chalk look you were talking about.
And a little bit of a darker look, and then we go to
a very pastel look.
Right, and in this case, I did the same thing with those backgrounds, choosing the colors I wanted, but I used the silky papers. And it really, it sort of glides around a little more when you do that.
Looks more like marbleizing, doesn't it?
Right.
Oh, very pretty. Of course, nice with some sequins there.
Right.
And just beautiful.
And then if you do it on some extra papers and then use some of those great cutting dies, the words cutting dies, to cut out what you like, you can place those right on top.
Very, very nice. Now here is...
So fun. Wait. It's just beautiful. Sorry.
Good.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're going to get into a little more traditional stamping, maybe.
Right. So this is just stamping on top of an inked blended background, and also some stamping all around the backgrounds. And all of this is using those Distress Oxide inks. I do love the white on there. I think Lene said that she inked up her stamp and then spritzed her stamp just a little bit before she stamped with it, and that gave her a little bit more of a watercolor look.
And the directions will be in the gallery, so you can see that. So beautiful look.
Absolutely beautiful.
And here is a layering stamp. This is the dahlias.
Right.
And so did the same thing of
this is a little bit different because now we're combining some of the mini Distress ink, so regular Distress ink, right along with that great Distress Oxide ink. And I'll show you real quickly what was done, because as this is day 2 of Stamp Camp, we want to make sure we're showing you lots of great stamping possibilities. So with layering stamps, you're going to be layering. You know this about layering stamps. You want a base, you want a second layer. And what I started with was the Distress inks. And I actually used the mini Distress ink set here. I think it's number 4, but you can check that out on the gallery. And I used shaded lilac and I used spun sugar. But when I stamped them, I spritzed the stamp pretty good with water before I stamped it. That's why it looks really kind of hazy a little bit. And then the second layer also, I spritzed that stamp with a little water on the Distress ink before I stamped it. Now it looks a little bit watercolory. Okay, now I'm going for the Distress Oxide, because now I want kind of a clean look, a nice sharp look. And I'm not going to spritz this one at all. I'm just going to ink that up with the Distress Oxide. This is the 3rd layer of the stamp. And when I put that on top, look at it, it's so much more
just
distinct.
Magically covers it.
And what's great about the Misty is that I can actually, I'm inking it up again, and I can stamp it again to make just as dark as I want it to be. And I just think that's a beautiful look. You've got that watercolor image in the back and then that chalky look on the front, and it really does look different. Once it dries, it almost has kind of a chalky feel to it.
It's also interesting going those 3 different colors instead of one color in 3 shades.
Right.
So that's,
I love mixing up the colors. It's just super fun
very
with the
pretty.
Stamps. Right.
Now in the center of these, I'm seeing some sparkle.
And that is from the clear glitter sheet. I'm going to bring it. This is what it looks like after you punch little holes out and peel the back off and just stick them on the centers of your flowers.
Pretty.
And I also, I have to show, stamped on scrap paper and used a mask so that I could get a whole bunch of flowers behind the look. You stamp the center, then you mask it off and go ahead and stamp around it so you can get all of those extra flowers.
And right here, there's more of the glitter acetate that's been stamped on, and you've done double stamping to get that shadow effect with the happy birthday.
That's right. And then cover it with the clear glitter.
Right.
I stamped on cardstock first and then added that clear glitter.
If we back up just a little bit, we're going to see this card. This is an S-fold card. And as I open it, you can see it's got this wonderful large cluster and then a smaller single blossom on the inside just for you.
Isn't that fun?
So happy birthday.
And the edges are blended with the cracked pistachio Distress Oxide. It's just beautiful. I also have to say, every time we see one of these cards, Paulette calls it an S-fold.
I do.
And I call it a Z-fold. every time in my instructions, you'll see me writing that it's a Z-fold, so just so you know.
You get to choose whatever you like.
Right.
Now we're going to go into something different, and we're going to go into some scrapbooking. So you can see this page, and much is going on. To begin with, we are using a stencil around the center area. Actually, I guess all over the page.
Mm-hmm.
And
so do we want to see that
yeah,
first?
why didn't you bring that in?
It started with cardstock. So Lene has got this nice big piece of cardstock. She's got that all over swirls stencil, which we use for a lot of different things. She placed it, used Versamark over it, and then used clear embossing powder. And she did that around the edges, kind of 4 random places. Afterwards, she got out the Distress inks and this little mini stylus blender and just started blending just like that.
Now this is the Distress Oxide?
The Distress Oxide inks, and when you bring in, you'll see, just made this beautiful effect.
And as I have this, I just want to point out, this is where that extra spritzing of water came in.
That's right.
To give those little
droplets. So go ahead and blend all that in first, and then as you're drying it, which you can dry it, let it air dry, or you can use a heat gun, whatever you like, just spritz it with a little water. I think that she actually used her fingers and just dipped it in water and just made some little spatters.
Because those are bigger. Did some stamping, and these are the white wildflowers that have also been inked.
They've been inked, and you can use the stylus for that. That makes it easy.
And you'll notice those flashes of sparkle. Those are sequins, and Lene has fallen in love with the sequins and is using them, just dipping them each into acrylic glue and just adding those.
Or putting little dots of acrylic glue and then placing them. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen this. I don't know if we've shown it. This is our,
the quicker picker-upper.
The quicker poker picker-upper. And it's got this great piece on the end that's got a little bit of a sort of a elastic or sticky stuff. Really super simple to pick up sequins and place them right where you want them. Plus it's got a little pokey thing on the other side. It's a great tool that we use for sequins.
Very good. Now we have another look, and it is shown in this card. Now we have some additional elements going on, and this is the For the Guys stamp.
And so definitely a masculine look here, and we're going to start with that background. The background is taking the iced spruce Distress Oxide and just taking this off like that, and you just swipe it across black cardstock. That's all I did for that background, but it sort of looked like pavement to me. So that was my first thought with that. Then I used the same ink and this kraft cardstock piece here. I went ahead and stamped it in some various areas. And you notice how when it dries, because it's a fusion of 2 different inks, you can see what dries on the top is a little bit different color than what you're seeing around. It's just kind of a fun effect. And then the next thing I did was got out my craft sheet, because we're going to need that, and some embossing paste. And you're just going to let this be a really random look, random process. And you might want to do it a couple of times to get a look that you like. But I'm going to load up like all the way along the edge here. And then I'm just gonna swipe. Here we go. I'm gonna see if I can do it like in one swipe. No, we're gonna do it in a couple of swipes. And we don't want it too thick, not real thick, but there we go. Now that's kind of a fun look. I like that it was kind of random, like smoke from a car maybe. And then you've got the car, and you've got the ink. Whoops. Oh, that I dropped right on my embossing. Oh well, we're gonna let it be.
Well, because it was recessed, I think you're okay.
Right, so right in the middle, I'm gonna ink up that car really nicely with the red. And then I actually used the iced spruce. And again, you see me using it directly from the ink pad, but you're welcome to use a cosmetic sponge here. So I just liked a little on the edges, little red in the middle. And now I'm going to stamp right into that embossing paste, and I'm just going to stamp down and lift it up, and that'll be it. Here we go, line it up a little bit, and every time I do this, it's going to be a little different. I don't want it to slide around, and then I want it to lift up, and there we go. Clean this right away. Put that in some water. You don't want it to dry on there. And I found that once it dries, it gets a little bit different look. It sort of bleeds out a little bit more.
Yeah, I can
see
see
really
that.
Fun, kind of an oxidized look.
It is. And this card also has an inside, which is very similar.
Right.
We've got the car racing over there, and more of the, and it's so funny, as you're using the black in your first project, you used pink, but it didn't look pink on the black. You're using this green, it doesn't look green on the black. So there's some experimentation going on.
So super fun. And so this is just stamped onto vellum and placed over another piece of cardstock, which I just swiped that ink across.
And I think this is really a good way to end this webisode. Is there no limit to your awesomeness? Well, with Distress Oxide, there doesn't appear to be.
It's super fun.
Please join us tomorrow. We're going to have more Stamp Camp and more fun things to show you. And by the way, if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.